So this is Camp Creator.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another behind-the-scenes interview about the making of the stage reading for Camp Creator and how it all came together. I'm joined today by actress and writer Isabelle Johnson. Would you mind introducing yourself and what your background's in?
Right. So, hi, I'm Isabelle. I'm 22. I'm an actress. Right now, I'm in Birmingham, and I run my own Shakespeare company, the Bard Shakespeare Troupe. I also film. I'm filming a movie this weekend and a few this summer, and trying to figure out what my career is gonna look like and my life as an actress.
I have many dreams of many silver screens. I see that all to mean I'm just a drama queen. For film or on the stage, I'll memorize a page and speak the words the best that I can say.
You've done short films, you've done stage work, and I guess what's your experience as a writer been before as well?
So typically, I've only worked on plays and screenplays. So working with the musical was very different. I didn't think it was going to be that different, but it was. It's a whole different kind of process. And so I went in expecting one thing, like a very cut and dry, like character work and, how are we going to work on these scenes together and like, what is the motivation? And then it was very like musically driven, and where in the music does your character change, and like what beat maybe is different, and the keys, and it was just like a whole other thing that I did not think about before, which is really fun. And I think it made me better in my play and screenwriting process to have that kind of experience of like, hey, this is a totally other ball game. How can I bring what I learned here into this other craft I do?
Yeah, I mean, you're right that like for the time that we spent in rehearsals, it was very much performance driven, very much like all right, like we just have to know the music and make sure we're all coming in on time. But I tried to make time right at the start of rehearsals. We spent about 30 minutes and I wish we could have talked more about, like I could talk for hours about like, all right, let's dissect the characters and their motivations.
Yeah.
But we just spent a little bit of time at the first rehearsal. And we're like, well, let's just ground ourselves in who these characters are. And that was kind of all the time that we spent talking about like maybe more traditional acting conversations. Was it daunting going in with 4 rehearsal days? What was your preparation process like for getting ready for your character?
I just learned all the material first and just got it in my head, made sure I knew what I was doing, what I was singing, what my lines were. Doing like stage readings and working on developing scripts, like you usually don't have a lot of time. So it's always important to me to make sure I've done my own work before I come in, so I can focus on like the nitty gritty things. So typically I just get everything down, know what I'm doing, and then I can start thinking about, okay, what is my character? What does she want? Like, why does she sing these songs? Why does she sing these parts in the songs? How does she think about like all the other characters and what motivates her throughout the show? And Audrey she was simple, but also so complicated. Like she has this very simple dream of like, oh, I want to be an actress. But then what comes with that is all that insecurity and the doubt and, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh my gosh, that person's so much better than me. So what seemed like a very simple task was actually so much more. And she's also a teenager, and being a teenager is really hard, especially when you are a teenager in the arts who like doesn't know what they want to do with their life.
I relate to every character, and I feel like I've put myself into every character in some way. But they are different, and I think one of the differences between Audrey and Melody is Audrey is still all the characters are finding themselves, but I think Audrey is the most like she just knows she has something to express, but is still more intimidated by like, well, I don't know what that looks like. I don't feel trained. I don't feel confident. And that's the main thing, is that Audrey is lacking that confidence. And that's something that's just like, well, the only way out is kind of just through.
Growing up in the arts, it can, and as a teenager, it's already hard being like a teenager, and then throwing yourself into a realm of comparison and like discovering identity outside of yourself, and then trying to figure out who you are. Every person I've ever met has gone through that, even if they're not in theater. And everybody I've talked to who's seen the show or listened to it has said Audrey is like their number one. And I think it's because everybody can kind of relate to that story, whether it be in the arts or like sports or just being a human being, trying to figure out like who you are, what you want to do with your life. It's really hard.
I'm terrified to act. I hardly know my lines. What if I mess up?
You may or you
I
may
have not done anything like this before.
Yeah, and I think that it's daunting for kids too. That like, I mean, we live in a capitalist society, and we also live in in a world where if you want to be an artist, you are encouraged to commodify your art. And so I think young people that are trying to face any reality of being an artist as an adult, I think they feel aware as even as teenagers that like, oh, if this is what I want to do, I need to be good enough to be professional. And there you can really feel that weight of like, if I want to move forward with this, I need to be good enough. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, especially when you're young, when you're a beginner. And it's like, well, this is your time where you're learning, and it's okay that you're learning. Like, why are you putting so much pressure on yourself to be experienced? And I mean, it's because of the society we live in, but I think that's something very real that I think a lot of artists or young people in any profession face, that like you're kind of in a rush to be better than you are, but it's okay with not being there yet, you know?
Yeah, it's not a race, even if it feels like it.
I want to wind back a little bit to, I guess, how'd you get connected to the Homewood Theater in the first place?
So I worked there 2024 for summer camps. A message to my school and looking for counselors. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I got to meet Lexi and Mason and all the people over there. And I just really liked the vibe. I liked working with Lexi and Mason a lot. And so we just kept in touch. I did some acting coaching there for a while. And then every once in a while, Lexi will send out like, hey, we're looking for these people, or we're doing this kind of event. And I saw she had sent you my way. And at the time, I was in Pensacola, about to move back to Birmingham. And I was like, yeah, I'll just see and just like get myself back in the theater scene there. I've been out of the game for the past few months, and just try it out. And I sent you my stuff, and here we are.
You had a great portfolio. I think you were one of the first people that sent in their reels. I think it was you and Lauren were the first ones that I heard about. Yeah, Lauren was very proactive on that. But yeah, I mean, it was what was great about the casting process was like I had handpicked a couple of people myself. Maybe half the cast were people that I had known in Birmingham. I grew up in Birmingham, and people that I knew from high school that I worked with in different ways. I knew Lexi and Mason from growing up together. Kirk, I was in the Birmingham Boys Choir with growing up. And so there was a couple of those connections, but about half the cast also was connections that Lexi had through the Homewood Theater. And I just felt very lucky that I guess like that she was connected enough with being able to network and kind of also have connections to UAB and Sanford and these schools for bringing people in. And I was very impressed with the cast. And I mean, you mentioned like kind of doing your homework early, and I think so many of the cast like really showed up already knowing the parts, because we only had 4 rehearsal days, so there wasn't really time to learn the songs after starting.
Yeah, I was feeling very Audrey of like, oh my gosh, what if everyone's better than me? Like, what if I don't know anyone? But I ended up knowing pretty much everybody there, and I was like, well, if Joe wants me to do this, I'm sure I'm pretty okay. But I was kind of gagged when I read the script, and I was like, oh, this is actually what I feel like every time I walk into a rehearsal room, even as a working actress. Like it never really leaves you.
I have a shoot this afternoon and I am worried for my lines. I was hoping you could coach me if you had the extra time. I am scared that I will mess it up and ruin the whole affair. I'd appreciate it if you could help me prepare.
So that was the most daunting part for me. And also, I haven't done a musical in a while. It's been a while. I mostly do plays and film, and so it's like getting back in the musical game was a little bit scary, but we did it and it was fun. And I'm really glad I did.
You talked a little bit about like the differences between like especially early development for musicals versus plays versus films, and I'm curious to maybe for you to kind of elaborate on, I guess, like how is writing, or how does the writing look differently at the very least? How does that look different from going from a musical to a film, and I guess projecting your own process onto it. I guess what did you take away from that?
Musicals are just so musically driven, which like duh, but very the big moments that happen in musicals are communicated through song and through like, oh, hit that high note, or like, oh, kick your face, which is really, really awesome and really, really cool. But when you're looking at like plays and film, it's like, how do I take those incredible moments and translate it into words or into like a shot or lighting? And I guess comparing the two, working on a script while I was working on Camp Creator, like they both work so well in their own right. And it's hard to compare them because they really are so different, even though they both are the same medium. Getting to hear and experience and like actually work through a climactic musical song, there was this like almost tangible sort of feeling you get when you reach the top of the script, you reach the summit, and you can like physically feel the falling action, the resolution is the best way I can describe it. It's like, okay, if I'm trying to write my own script, how can I like physically feel the rise and the fall of the story, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of articulating it, because I've struggled as a writer sometimes, because my background before I started writing musical theater projects was in indie filmmaking myself, and writing screenplays myself. And I feel like what's hard is um, it's yeah, like trying to take, like, I have a scene in my head and there's all these different beats that kind of have different colors in those, or emotional colors in these
Mm-hmm.
different beats throughout a scene. And to me, writing dialogue that then accomplishes that roller coaster of emotion, to me, that's something that is such a high art that I'm like, I'm not good enough of a writer to take just words and do justice to trying to fulfill that emotional roller coaster. So for me, music is kind of a cheat because it's something that's like, if there's any ambiguity in the way you're supposed to say a line, say a monologue with music, I know I can give it pitch. I can change the tempo. I can change the dynamics, and baked into the music is the emotional nuance that I don't feel like I'm a good enough screenwriter to do, but I feel like I can do that musically.
It's such a different kind of translation of like the intent behind what you're trying to say. I took a musical theater class in college, and it never crossed my mind that like all the instrumentation and the different ways like chords are constructed have a very specific meaning. I was like, oh, it just sounds pretty. And I was like, no, that it actually is very important the way they construct score. And so that was cool, being able to like physically look at the score you gave me and see the key changes and see like the different jumps and different motifs of each character and how they showed up, and places I couldn't even necessarily hear, but I could see, oh, that's Melody's motif, or oh, that's Dr. Kingsley. You know, that's really cool to like. I'm very visual, to actually see a construction of it. I mean, it's a script. It's a script, but with music notes, and being able to see that was really, really cool.
Being a part of a stage reading, this was the first public unveiling of Camp Creator. I guess, yeah, like how do you feel being a part of seeing what worked?
I love doing first readings of scripts. I think it's so much fun, especially when you're in a group like that and you can bounce the ideas off each other. And if you work through a scene, you're like, hey, that didn't work. Why didn't this work? Or hey, this worked really well. Why did that work? And then you can kind of get into the nitty gritty of like, oh my gosh, what if we did this? Or what if she said it this way? And what was really cool is, because I had been working on it for a while, I had my own idea of what the characters would say or sound like, and like already made my own opinions about them. But then when we actually did the read through, everybody did it way differently than I imagined. Oh, that's why that line is there. Oh, that makes more sense. And it just kind of fits together a lot better. It's always really fun to collaborate with people and see what they bring to the table, because I tend to be very like tunnel vision when it comes to my work. I like doing my own thing, and you like it's what I want. But it's always humbling to see, hey, I don't always have the answers. Other people have really good ideas too. And yeah, that was my favorite thing, is just seeing what everybody brought to it that I didn't bring to it. And that I was like, okay, now I get to play with my character more and their relationship and the way she does things, because they did something different that I didn't expect.
I relate to that. I've done a lot of projects where I feel like I'm wearing all these different hats and doing all these different things, which is, I think, empowering as an artist, is to feel like you're making something that's your vision and you're executing all these different things. I've done short films where I'm acting, writing, editing, composing, and it's like I put so much of myself into it. I always enjoy sharing it with more people because, yeah, I totally agree. Like, there's things that I just can't do all by myself, and whether that's like bringing artists on board, and I love that like Rachel did character portraits for all the characters, and like that's something that like I couldn't do by myself. I worked with like a separate mixer to help like produce and like master the audio from the stage reading, and that's something I couldn't do on my own. And I think that that's part of the point of the show as well. It's like Camp Creators very much is a story about making art as well, and it's all about like, well, learn to collaborate and knowing when to be an auteur. And like sometimes what's great about an artist is that you can control everything, but also sometimes you need to know when to let go if the need to control things gets in the way.
Yeah, that's real. And it's hard. It'll definitely stay relevant, especially Audrey, the queen. I love her story. I think she's so cute and so sweet. And I wanna spin off with her, living out all of her dreams.
Yeah, we'll do the sequel at some point. Yeah, Camp Creator 2. As we continue to share this show with more people, what are you excited to share with people from Camp Creator?
I think the collaboration, I think that was what was most fun for me, is just getting to do a show with my friends and getting to just do something different and something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone, and maybe encouraging younger artists, because it's a show about younger artists, of being like, hey, you don't need to have perfection. Like, you can be messy, you can be insecure, you can be scared, but that doesn't mean like you're any less of an artist just because you're young. You're still bright and smart and talented and funny, and you can be all those things at once, and it doesn't make you any less of a person or an actor, singer, dancer, what have you.
Yeah, that's an important lesson. Is there anything else that you have coming up that you're excited about? Anything you're working on that you're excited to plug or advertise as well?
I got a few things cooking. Well, if you didn't know, Joe is working the music for this show, but I'm working on a film called Divine Children. We start filming 4 days on Friday. And then I have another film that is in pre-production for the summer called Maybe Unlikely. And it is a little bit harder because it's a longer script, but that's okay. And also I got engaged. So I'm planning a thing.
Yeah, y'all stay tuned for all those future updates. If you have a YouTube channel or a website, I'll put that in the description. Without further ado, unless you have any closing thoughts, thank you so much for joining us today, Isabelle.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Always good to see you.
It's been a pleasure. And without further ado, like and subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next video.